Hello, this is the fourth module in a video series about using the concepts from the Baldrige improvement model for department and unit improvement. This module is all about measurement, analysis, and knowledge management. It always amazes me when I watch a football game or other sporting event how every one of the athletes I see performing incredible feats once began their lives as a baby unable to roll themselves over. As I watch my own kids grow up, it's amazing how quickly they learn new things when they're little. One day they're not able to roll over on their own, and the next day they're asking you to borrow the car keys. Okay, well, my kids aren't old enough to ask to borrow the car keys yet, but hopefully by the time they're old enough, we'll have self-driving cars and I'll be able to just tell my car through my phone to bring them home. Hey Siri, bring the kids home. But as I watch them, what I notice is how much practice it takes for them to learn how to walk, for example. It starts with them trying to stand on their own feet, balancing on their own feet for a few moments, and then trying to move to surfing, where they're moving around the room while holding on to furniture or chairs or other objects, and then eventually moving on to walking on their own. What's more astounding even than that, perhaps, is that as a collective effort, we're able to put people on the moon so they could walk and bounce around on the moon. Now, let's consider just for a moment, how did we get to the point of being able to land people on the moon? Now, if you look at the history of the moon landing, it really wasn't a giant leap. Rather, it was a series of many baby steps that, when put all together, it enabled progress to the moon. Getting to the moon required innovation and problem solving on a grand scale, as well as careful testing and evaluation of solutions. So, for example, as I'm looking at this picture, I'm wondering what would happen if an astronaut fell over on the moon? Would they be able to get back up again wearing that big suit? A quick search on Google and I find it did happen a few times, and all of the astronauts fortunately were able to get back up again. But I'm sure it's something that they had to think through, test, measure, plan out to make sure they're protecting the safety of the astronauts. Now, I'm not going to say that we were able to get to the moon because of the Baldrige model, because the Baldrige model didn't come together until the 1980s, but I will say is that what's important is the careful collection of data and monitoring of progress, and practice and review over time was critical to the ability to land people on the moon. So this module is all about tracking progress toward a goal. I'll talk about what to assess, how to track progress. I'll talk about data quality, since it's hard to know if you're making progress if you have poor quality data. I'll talk about embedding learning and sharing best practices to make good use of the data you've collected. And then I'll close by describing some of the existing data sources available in the college and at the university. To get started, the first question that most will have is, what should we be assessing? And what does it mean to track progress? Guidance from the Baldrige model recommends tracking data and information for daily operations, which might include things like class attendance or student engagement on a daily basis and so on, and overall unit performance, which would include things like action plans, strategic plan, and overall goals. This can feel a bit like a request that everything should be measured, tracked, examined, and studied, which can be, of course, very overwhelming. But fortunately, this is not the case. The Baldrige model emphasizes that you shouldn't be assessing everything, especially if you're just assessing things for the sake of assessing things. Rather, the focus should be on assessing those things that are most important to your success. For example, thinking about daily operations, if student attendance is important to you, then you definitely should be assessing it. But if attendance isn't really that important to you, or if you don't have a unit that manages coursework or classes, then you shouldn't be assessing it just because other departments or units might be assessing it. Likewise, there are things that are important to you that maybe aren't important to others, but that shouldn't prevent you from assessing those things either. Now, I'm already prepared for your next question. If you're going to be assessing the things that are most important for your success, what are those things that are most important for your success? Well, if you watched Module 2, you've already answered that question, as your strategic plan should include the things that you need to be doing that are most important for your success, and you should have started already a plan for assessing those things to see how your progress is going on those areas. Okay, now as you're thinking about assessing your progress, I'm going to take a moment to review an important concept from Module 2 about lag and lead measures. It's a kind of a concept that's important both when you're thinking about your planning and about measuring your progress, so I'm going to revisit that here just briefly. Lead measures now are things that you're assessing that indicate if you're likely to achieve your objective, and lag measures are the measures that show your success on the overall objective. So, for example, it's just about New Year's Eve as I'm working on this, and many people, especially after a year of a pandemic, may have a goal of losing weight during the coming year. For example, I might have a goal of achieving a weight of 165 pounds and a BMI between 18.5 and 25. Now, the lag measure of that goal is my weight measured by standing on a scale and performing the calculations needed to determine BMI. Now, I certainly can measure my weight and BMI as frequently as I want, every couple minutes or multiple times a day if I really want. But this is a lag measure because the change on this will be slow, and by the time I measure my weight and BMI, it's too late to do anything about that day. So I can't really, for example, I can't uneat those 6 waffles I had for breakfast. On the other hand, the lead measures might be things like physical activity and calories consumed. They're lead measures because they indicate the likelihood of achieving the overall goal. And they're distinct from the lag measure because they can easily be changed in the moment. So for example, if it's 5 p.m. on a Tuesday, I look at my Fitbit and determine that I've only met, say, 4,000 of my 12,000 step goal for the day. I can change my schedule in the evening to make space for additional steps. In the same way, if I'm using a calorie counting app, I can note that I had a donut for breakfast. I may need to make modifications to my meal for the rest of the day to ensure that my calorie intake is in the goal range for the day. So as you're thinking about what to assess, be sure you include lead measures in your assessment plan as this will support your ability to make changes along the way and to ensure you reach your goals as assessed by your lag measures. So to summarize, what should you be assessing? Well, start by looking at your strategic plan to identify what's most important for your success. And it's fine to have lag measures defined in your strategic plan, as this will provide some overall information on your achievement of the plan. But you should also identify lead measures as they'll help you make course corrections along the way and will be much more informative for improving your operations during the year. So here's a few examples. If the objective is, say, to improve the 4-year graduation rate, then the lag measure is the 4-year graduation rate. The lead measure, however, might be something like the number of students who enroll in at least 15 credits each semester, because this is a leading measure because enrolling in a sufficient number of credits is a big predictor of being able to graduate on time. And you can take action by addressing enrollment by looking at enrollment patterns and working with students who haven't enrolled in at least 15 credits to add additional courses. Another example might be around the objective to increase grant funding. Now, grant funding expenditures, it's a lag indicator because it takes a long time from when a grant is submitted to when the dollars are actually received and being spent. However, a lead measure might be the number of applications that are submitted, as units keep an eye on this, can keep an eye on this and set aside additional time or resources to pursue more grants if they're not on track to meeting the submission goal. A third example might be instructional quality. A lag measure would be the end of course ratings of instruction. It's a lag measure because by the time students get to the end of the course, it's too late to change anything really. A lead measure could be, say, weekly instructional feedback or weekly check-ins where the instructor collects feedback on how the course has been going so far. So now that you have a sense of what you will assess, what are some of the practical aspects of collecting, managing, and analyzing data? How do you create a system in your unit to collect, manage, and analyze data? So this section provides some guidance on how to collect, manage, and analyze data in your unit. So first, it's important to consider how you want the various roles of staff and faculty in your unit to be involved in this work. Now, not everyone has to be involved in the same way, but everyone should have at least some role. At a minimum, everyone, all faculty and staff members, including part-time employees, student workers, graduate student employees, should understand what the unit seeks to achieve and how that success is assessed. Not only is this important for achieving your mission, it's also critical for employee engagement. So thinking about your organizational chart in your unit, depending on how deep and wide your chart might be, you might think about the different roles at different levels. For example, you might want managers to be responsible for tracking success for their area on a regular basis for some component of the strategic plan that's relevant for the area. On the other hand, you might have frontline staff who might be further down the organizational chart who might be responsible only for entering and tracking data, but not really for analyzing and reporting results. So whatever you decide, it's important to include these things in written job descriptions and offer letters. If it's not in a job description, you'll have no effective strategy for holding staff accountable to follow through on these activities. Another strategy to think about at this point is to have a point person for the whole unit. A point person is someone who's assigned to know the data in the unit better than anyone else and to support the work of collecting, managing, and analyzing data. It doesn't have to be a full-time job, although it can depend on the complexity of your unit and the size of your unit and what you're trying to accomplish. But it should be at least a percentage of someone's job in your unit to take the point person role and to be a person who can manage data for the unit and support the ability of others to use data in the unit. Another recommendation, is I recommend you think systematically about data collection, management, and use. So thinking systematically is a theme of the Baldrige model, and it's about having a well-ordered, repeatable process. Again, this is the A in the ADLI that was discussed earlier. For example, you might be monitoring the results of a specific financial indicator. When results are received for that month on, say, the last day of the month, those results are added to an existing data file that then automatically updates a live data dashboard. The dashboard then automatically sends an email to the responsible manager with a note that results have been updated, which prompts the manager to review the results and determine if a modification is needed. So this is an example of a repeatable, well-ordered process for collecting, using, analyzing data. Another way to work systematically is to use software tools. There's many different types of software tools you might consider using. At the most comprehensive level, there's a software system like TK20, which the teacher education program uses for its students. It collects data, it stores data, and makes reports available. Now, such comprehensive systems may not be cost-effective for smaller units, but they can meet a wide range of needs if you really have those broad-ranging data collection and analysis reporting needs. Another type of software to consider would be comprehensive software systems that include data collection as part of the system. They might be custom access databases or multi-use systems like Salesforce. They may too require development and investment of time and resources to get them up and going. Another option is to consider how to make use of software that the university already provides. Some software that might be useful for assessment includes Excel, Qualtrics, Power BI for visualization, and Microsoft Teams for doing collaborations. And finally, it's important to have a written assessment plan for your unit. The written plan will include what you'll assess, how it will be assessed, who's responsible for doing the assessment, and how results will be used. Collecting, analyzing, and sharing data is important, of course, but it's only important to the extent that you learn from those data. An important part of your assessment plan is to consider how the collected data will be used to result in organizational or unit learning. Now, organizational learning is about how you get knowledge about organizational effectiveness out of the head of a person in your unit and make it part of the organization. So, for example, if your unit tried a new program or tried offering a service in a different way and it totally bombed or fell flat on its face, how would the unit know so the same thing wasn't attempted in the same way again in the future? On the other hand, if you try a new program or offer something new that's wildly successful, how would other people in the unit find out about this? Or even thinking just more broadly, how does your unit improve things over time in its operations? Are you still doing things the same way you were doing them 10 years ago, or have they improved? And if they are improving over time, how are you making those decisions and what's driving those improvement efforts? So here's a strategy for organizational learning. A person I worked with a few years back ran summer programming. After each program, she would collect the written evaluations of the program, then enter a summary of what she discovered about the program into a Word document that was stored on a shared drive for the entire office. And then as they began planning for the next event, those historical files could be reviewed by anyone, not just the person who'd run the program, to learn what seemed to work and what didn't. And then what was learned could also be discussed at all staff meetings to share as they're doing planning for the future event in the next year. Another strategy that some places have used for embedding learning is to hold monthly all-staff meetings. In these meetings, leaders can review progress on the lead measures, invite staff to share strategies that they're finding effective or improvements or changes they have made in their processes. A third strategy that has been used in many different places is the use of what's called huddle boards. Huddle boards have traditionally been just a whiteboard or a blank space on the wall where progress on key measures, important updates, tools or templates, or best practices or innovations are shared. Often teams that work together on a project will meet periodically, sometimes daily, around these huddle boards to discuss updates in the project, identify solutions, and review progress. There's also online huddle boards, so you're not required to necessarily be in person to use this particular strategy. Now, using data to inform action and improvement is important, but of course, it's only important or valuable if you can depend on the accuracy, validity, and the reliability of the data. To highlight the importance of data accuracy, allow me to share an old math quiz problem courtesy of Dave Barry. A customer walks into a fast food restaurant, orders 2 hamburgers costing $2 apiece, then hands you a $5 bill. How much change should you give him? A, $2, B, $3, C, none, because the question doesn't say you work there, you could just take the money and run away. No, of course, the correct answer is D, whatever the computerized cash register says, even if it's $154,789.62. Now, accurate sales reporting and data is something you hope to track in your unit and your staff. If they're giving change using this particular strategy, you'd be in big trouble for having accurate data. So there's really 5 important aspects of data quality, and these are accuracy, which is about the extent to which your data match what's happening in your unit. Timely and current, which is about getting data that reflects what happened recently and not from years and years ago and is available when you need it. Reliable, which is about accuracy, but it's also about the repeatability of the measure, that your measures don't drift over time and they'll measure the same thing in the same way every time. Validity, which is about the interpretations of the data, that you're not reading more into the data than that's really there, that you avoid extrapolation and don't draw inferences that are not substantiated. And protected and private, where you're not sharing personal information when not necessary and are protecting FERPA and HIPAA data appropriately, and that your data are safe from hackers and others who might be using the data inappropriately. There's lots of different strategies that can be used to support the use of high quality data. The first is simple, but sometimes surprising how rarely it happens, and that is to include discussions of data quality in the data report. This might be something as simple as a survey response rate, but it could also be a place to describe how results were checked and verified for accuracy. Another strategy is to make sure data are checked for quality and accuracy and validity and reliability before they're sent out to a report. One of the things that can help with this is to have a data owner who will do these checks and will vouch for the quality of the data so you don't get bogged down checking and verifying data quality over and over and over again. Fourth, it's also helpful to have data triangulated through multiple sources, especially when you're making an important decision. So not just relying on a single data source, but looking at a particular issue from multiple sets of data. Fifth, train data users on how to spot data quality issues. Professional development in these areas of validity, reliability, and basic statistics can go a long way in helping data users spot data quality issues. And finally, it's important to have a data dictionary, which is a document that describes where the data and report came from, defines the data being used, and helps users know how to interpret the results. Now, in closing out this module, it's important that you don't feel like your unit is responsible on its own for collecting every bit of data. So we're fortunate to have lots of existing sources of data at the University of Iowa and in the College of Education. So the first data source I'm going to share with you is data.uiowa.edu. Once you log in with your Hawk ID and password, you'll find a wide array of data available depending on your account permissions. So for example, on data.uiowa.edu, you'll find the Undergraduate Career Outcomes Survey results produced by the Pomerantz Career Center. This includes things like the number of undergraduate alumni who found a job after graduating, the location of that job, and how much they were receiving in pay. Another example would be the CERU Survey Response Dashboard. This is the Student Engagement in the Research University Survey. This dashboard, for example, shows the results from the university's recent participation in the survey. It allows you to apply various demographic filters to see how subgroups in the college responded to a range of questions on the survey. To find college-specific data in data.uiowa.edu, search for College of Education Reports, and then click on College of Education Reports from the list that appears, and you'll see the list of college education reports that are available. This is the list of reports currently available, and again, your access will be limited somewhat depending on your specific role in the college. But you can click on any of these links in here, it'll take you to the report. For example, the strategic plan report shows the college's current strategic plan along with links to see data for our progress in the strategic goals and objectives. So clicking on one of these view buttons will take you to the data available for that area. So for example, this is 2B on research funding and expenditures. You can see the progress the college has made, some peer comparisons, and some rankings data for this particular goal. We have lots of data available in the college, and I ask you to contact us if there's something you need but can't find through various sources. That is all for Module 4. The 3 linked activities for this module are creating an assessment plan and embedding learning, developing a plan for sharing best practices, and a guide for reviewing data quality. Thank you for watching.